Hello, this is Jo. For this week's episode, we're taking you back to the end of last year to a previously unreleased episode that we recorded just before we went on our break over Christmas. Enjoy and have fun listening.
This is Swiss and Chips, your British guide to Switzerland. Hello, this is Swiss and Chips. I'm Jo.
And I'm Simon.
And today we're talking about what it's like to be in the club. And I don't mean that kind of club. I mean a club where you meet other people, perhaps go for a lunch, perhaps do a shared activity together. Specifically today, we're talking about the British Residents Association. Because, tell us why, Simon.
So clubbing with the bra.
Yes, that can be shortened to BI.
There was a really nice man. He wrote to you and said, hey, I've listened to your podcast and I thought it would be interesting for our club to hear a bit more what you're doing and how your life is, or what exactly?
Yeah, exactly. Someone who had heard about our podcast thought that we were doing a very interesting thing, and they asked me as a British person to come along and talk to the British Residents Association. So that's what we did on Saturday.
Yes, and what did you talk about?
Well, they were sort of quite intrigued about how it is that a British journalist comes to be working in Switzerland, basically.
And what the ups and downs are. And
yeah,
so on.
the ups and downs, the journey along the way, you know, and what I'm kind of doing here, basically.
Yeah, so to sum it up, today we talk about this very short about the event that we went, and if we would recommend to you out there listening to it to join such a club.
Exactly. So we weren't exactly sure what to expect. Simon came along as well because it's always interesting for us to, you know, go to these events together and meet different people.
Oh, yes, totally.
We headed off to Vevey for the day. We jumped over the Roche de Graben.
Yes, and it's a fantastic train ride.
Yeah, it's really nice. That's great. And it just about stopped raining as well when we arrived, so that was a big bonus.
And the train ride goes along the river, so if you go from Bern to Vevey, sit on the right side and you will see everything.
The lake showing up on the right.
Oh, not river, yes, lake. It looks really beautiful, yes.
So, yeah, we arrived there and weren't exactly sure what to expect. Would there be any other Swiss people there?
Yes.
But there were. There were.
Well, many became Swiss, but there was also born Swiss people.
Yeah, there were lots of dual nationals there as well. People who were, you know, Swiss-British from birth.
Yes.
Who perhaps grew up in the UK and came back to Switzerland, for example. There are really all sorts of constellations of the passports there.
All sorts of interesting people, basically.
Yeah, it was great. And it's quite nice, actually, for me to go to these kind of events where you're suddenly surrounded by lots of British people. I mean, obviously, we get that when we go back to the UK. But having it here in Switzerland, that is kind of something special, I think.
Yes, and everyone is really, in a good mood and is looking forward to meet all these other people. And everyone was really friendly and chatty. And you meet very diverse people and interesting talks with everyone. So that was great. It was really, really good, yes.
People from lots of walks of life as well.
So we had a little apéro, a little drink, and you talk to each other. And then there was a dinner and a speech, basically your speech this time. But there seems to be always a kind of speech when on such an event.
Yeah, exactly. This was their autumn get-together.
Yes.
And I went and did my talk.
Yeah, and there are also other people who maybe have like a small project or something, and one small project is coming up, and we would also give it a shout out.
Yeah, exactly. We got chatting to a lady there who's organising a charity event on the 9th of November in the aid of the Invictus Games.
Yes.
You might have heard of that because Prince Harry is the patron of it, I believe.
Yep, big fan.
Exactly. They're holding a Remembrance Gala concert on the 9th of November, so...
Yeah, we put the link in our show notes, so check it out. It's, seems to be a good thing and sounded very interesting. We are not there then, so we're not going, but yeah, if you are close, check it out, yes.
Exactly.
Now, if I were a British resident and would come to Switzerland, my first trip, or be here for a long time, what do you think? Would you recommend joining a club like this, or yes or no, or what are the advantages or disadvantages? What do you think?
That's a good question. It's something that I got talking to somebody about when we were at the event on Saturday as well. My personal view is that when you move to a new place, I think you should do everything in your power to meet new people. And it's only through trying out different types of clubs, associations, meetups, courses, and so on that you find out, what's the thing that you actually enjoy going to and where do you meet people that you like to hang out with.
Yes, and as many people also point out, in Switzerland it's quite hard to make new friends.
Exactly.
And one way is to join a club, like a sports club or whatsoever. But this would be if you maybe you have already Swiss friends or also not, but you're you obviously want to hang out and connect with people from your home country, and I think that's a really great way.
But here's the interesting thing. I've been in a few of these kind of clubs. When I lived in Zurich, I was in the International Women's Association, for example. And I think there's a bit of what's the word? People have it in their minds that, for example, a British club or an English-speaking club might just be only expats who are very much into the kind of British sense of things. They maybe don't even speak the local language. But from my own personal experience, what I can say is when you go to these events, yes, it's a very British or a very English-speaking experience. But if there are people who've been in this country for quite a long time, they often have made quite a lot of connections into the country. Maybe they have a Swiss husband or wife or partner. They have then a kind of Swiss family. They might have Swiss children. They work at a Swiss company, for example. So it's not as separate from a kind of Swiss way of life as you might think. So I think it can be quite useful for making these kind of connections, but in a different way than perhaps to joining a Swiss association. That might be a little bit harder to kind of get below the surface.
I totally agree. I think many of these people know much more about Switzerland than I do. They're much more into it, and obviously you share the same experience, so they can help you better, or maybe have an idea or share the same problems, and that's also why you always have a common topic to talk about, because you are all in the same boat basically, and people try to help each other. It's like a group coming together.
Yeah,
same likely minded people.
Yeah, same kind of mindset. Yeah. But I think, as with everything in life, it's good to have balance, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
There'll be things that you get there that you wouldn't get from another kind of club. But on the other hand, if you joined, a sports club that's got mostly Swiss people in it, that's going to give you a completely different perspective on Swiss life, isn't it? You won't be going there and discussing, what's it like to learn Swiss German? It's just not an issue for them, really, is it?
Like a Schwingen club.
Like a Schwingen club.
Or Hornussen.
Yeah. Or Hornussen. That's a completely different experience.
Yeah, probably, yes.
But also something extremely cool. Unfortunately, there's only 7 days in the week.
Yeah.
But I think it's super nice to try out these different things and see what's what.
Yeah, totally. One thing to mention, and it was also mentioned to us quite often.
It was,
that, finally some young people are here.
Yeah. You're so young, they said. I was like, this is nice. We should come more often.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, it's true. I think many of these clubs is also Swiss clubs, by the way, also sports clubs. And where you have it's not quite a charity, but it's more like a, you don't really, it's hard to explain, but you don't really profit directly, or you don't learn something directly. And then I think it's hard for these clubs to attract young people, because I assume that many younger people, they just try to meet up in online groups or something, and they have so many possibilities and so much around in their head that it's hard for them to choose, should I go to rollerblading, ice skating, bungee jumping, or the association club? And then it's, they don't want to
commit to something.
Yeah. Oh, thank God, yes.
You're welcome. Yeah, that's an interesting point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because with meetups from a Facebook group, for example, did I mention we have one? It's called Switzerland for English Speakers. Maybe the events happen less regularly.
Yes.
And just when the people in the group say, hey, let's all get together, and then something happens.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Whereas a kind of association with a committee board, for example, they might make regular dates.
Yeah.
And that's just a kind of different approach, I think, isn't it?
Yes, and in the Facebook group, for example, obviously we organize, or anyone can organize like us and say let's go and have a drink tonight. And then it's very casual, and you can have a look who is coming or who is not, and then you can come or not. But if you join a group, then it's like committing almost.
Yeah.
But it's not, but it feels maybe a little bit like, and maybe that's why it's hard to attract younger people. And now I think they have really a problem, because there are literally almost none. So it's hard to gain traction again.
Yeah, exactly. And when I was in this other organization, it was maybe like 5 or 6, 7 years ago, anyhow, they set up a kind of younger section of the group, like quite informally. I think if you have a few younger members together who say, let's make a kind of younger section, that could even be people in like their 40s, doesn't have to be like people who are 15 years old, although it could, depends on the need. Once you have a group of those together, then they can focus on attracting kind of newer, younger members, I think, or doing something that they might want to do.
Yeah. So if you join a group, which I personally would recommend, just to only see how it is. And then it's obviously would be great if you can attract others as well. Then you might find yourself surrounded by more younger people.
If you want to be.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but what was the positive thing, what you would take away from it? I mean, this is not particularly negative. It's just how it was, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like we've already said, really, it's just an interesting way to meet lots of new people, interesting people, people that you wouldn't necessarily come across in your sort of day-to-day business.
Yes, and there are no, let's put it like that, I think there are almost no average people. Because it's true, because you moved country, which is a big step, which only a minority of people in the world ever do. You moved country, so you are already an interesting group of people.
Thank you.
And then that also means you must be like open-minded for new things, new projects and so on. And many of them have like great projects, I think. Almost everyone we talked to was very interesting what they did in their life.
Yeah.
And I think it's also, if you really see it as your mind opener or talking to someone nice or having a good time, but also it can be a helpful connection maybe to find a future job or something.
Yeah, totally.
So it's really good connections. It's a good network you can build, I think.
It's true. It's funny, this networking thing, isn't it? Because before you go to some sort of event or club or meetup or whatever it might be, meeting up with people you don't know in some shape or form, always beforehand it can be a bit like, what's it going to be like there?
Yeah. Yes.
But pretty much whenever I've been to something, it's always been super interesting.
On that note,
get out there.
Yes. First, join our Facebook group, which is called Switzerland for English Speakers.
It is.
Organize an event there.
Yes, please. We will come along.
Yes, totally. No. Join our Facebook group or write to us on our come to our website and stuff and so on, swissandchips.com.
Yes.
But also, I think it's highly recommendable to join any kind of club or group, and if it's a Swiss group or a British group or both.
Yeah, get out there, seize the day.
Wow.
And on that note, see you later.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening.